Alright guys, welcome to my Shaman leveling guide for Wrath of the Lich King Classic. This video will be relevant for people who are playing on fresh servers, but also people jumping straight into Northrend content. As always, we'll cover tips and tricks to speed up your leveling, the best talents and glyphs to get, the best playstyle to do, weapon progression, and also your stat priority and what gear pieces to pick. If you end up liking the video guys, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do have a subscriber only video on my channel page, which is a little secret trick to get 70,000 XP on the Wrath of the Lich King launch with absolutely no effort in the space of a few seconds. And it's nothing to do with preparing 25 quests in the quest log or anything like that. Now let's jump into the tips and tricks. So firstly, I think one of the most underrated abilities for leveling is the Stoneclaw totem, particularly when you have it talented. It really helps when you're multi-pulling and doing cleaving when you're leveling, because obviously it's going to have a chance to stun the targets and just overall reduce the amount of damage you take and make pulling multiple enemies easier. Remember, when you want to pull enemies closer to you or want to steal a tag from someone else, you can use a rank 1 lightning bolt. I definitely recommend macroing that. You still have the reduced cast time on a rank 1 lightning bolt, but obviously down ranking doesn't work on Wrath of the Lich King, so it still technically costs the same amount of mana, but I still think it's worth having just because the cast is so ridiculously fast. Particularly obviously when you get some haste gear. Now if you're boosting a Shaman in a pre-patch, I'd recommend getting the anti-undead set for the Shaman. That's a piece of it right there. I have a video coming very soon about how to get this gear, but it's very simply from the Scourge Invasion events. As you can see, the stats on it are very good, equal to like tier 5 gear, loads of dirty haste on it, and then when you get more pieces you do extra damage to undead, to which there is a lot of in Northrend. During this event you can also get undead sharpening stones. Now I know sharpening stones are redundant in Wrath of the Lich King, but they're still usable on the gear pieces that you pick up in TBC. So if you get a really good weapon from Sunwell, which are very likely to keep all the way until level 80, then get the undead sharpening stones in the pre-patch event. You can buy these with necrotic runes, which very simply drop from the undead mobs during the Scourge Invasion event. I'd also recommend getting a Wrath of the Lich King Enhancement Shaman weak aura pack. It has absolutely everything that you need in one very simple weak aura, like for instance whether your totems are actives, your cooldowns on your short cooldown abilities and also your large abilities, and whether you've got lightning shield up and everything good like that. Remember to always put start attack macros on your shock spells. You're going to be using shock spells quite a lot. You will jump into these situations from time to time where you haven't actually started automatically attacking, so ensure that always happens. Just put start attack on. I mean, you can put it on everything to be honest, even put it on your totems, because you don't want your auto attack to be turned off. Remember to save a bit of mana, you can use Totemic Recall, which refunds the mana that you've used in order to cast your totems. So whenever you need to move to a new location, use that ability and delete all your totems, refund a little bit of mana. Another really annoying thing that happens sometimes is you leave totems somewhere and the totems pull another mob, and then you end up stuck in combat and you can't mount up, which obviously wastes a lot of time. Now when it comes to optimizing your damage while leveling, you always want to put a slow weapon in your main hand and then a fast one in your offhand. So whatever you have, just remember the slow one, main hand, the faster one, offhand. Another thing you can do is prepare 25 quests to very quickly turn in when Wrath of the Lich King launches. I've got a really fast route for this. Again, if you subscribe to my channel and check the description of the video on the subscriber only video, there is a really good route on there in a Google Drive document you can check out. And the last shameless plug is going to be Rest XP. This is the best leveling guide that you can get out there. It's been made by world record holding speed levelers. It has loads of time saving tips and class specific tips as well for you to check out. But anyway, let's move on to talents. So let's run through the talents. Just remember guys, as long as you pick up the essential talents, you can really go wherever you want, whatever you prefer to be honest. Just make sure you get the really good talents. So to begin with, I like going for Earth's Grasp because I like using Stoneclaw Totem quite a lot. But some people prefer to go for enhancing totems or putting points into Ancestral Knowledge. The reason why Ancestral Knowledge is better now is because you actually gain attack power with a different talent, which I'll mention later, and it's based on your attack power. From here you want to definitely max out Thundering Strikes, there's absolutely no option there, and then you can either put 2 points in Improved Shields, or put 2 points in Improved Ghost Wolf, it's really up to you. When you're low level, and you don't have a mount yet, definitely recommend going for Improved Ghost Wolf. But later, when you have a mount, it's not as useful. Then you also definitely want to get Shamanistic Focus, and max out Elemental Weapons, and then max out Flurry. Then you definitely want Spirit Weapons straight away, for a chance to actually parry. And then you've got the mental dexterity that I mentioned before, so now intellect gear will actually give you a little bit of attack power. To be fair, sometimes having a mix max of caster intellect gear and agility DPS gear is actually quite good to have when you're low level, but we'll talk about that later. Then you want to max out weapon mastery and unleash rage, get dual wield obviously, but obviously we want to get this as soon as possible, so the second that you can unlock dual wield, you pop down to dual wield straight away and then pick up unleash rage later, or to be fair, you probably want to go for dual wield spec, then go back up to unleash rage, and obviously get storm strike as well the second that you can get it, so get dual wield, storm strike, and then finish off talents in dual wield spec or unleash rage. And then as soon as lava lash is available, again get lava lash. It's a great filler ability, although it is kind of lame to be honest. Then you definitely want to get improved storm strike straight away. This is a great mana efficient talent. Every time you storm strike, you're going to get 20% of your base mana back. It's very similar to the judgment talent for Ret Paladin. Then we're going to get static shot. And I like to get Shamanistic Rage straight away, and then I like to get Mental Quickness as soon as possible as well, because a portion of your attack power is going to be added as spell power, and a lot of your abilities as Shaman still actually benefit from spell power. Then again, like just get your Static Shot to get down the tree, Maelstrom Weapon, ASAP as well. This is a very impactful talent. Basically, on your melee attacks, you have a chance to get a Maelstrom Weapon proc, and then when it's maxed out, it's going to cause your Chain Lightning, Lightning Bolt, or Lesser Healing Wave or Healing Wave, Chain Heal even, or even Hex, to be an instant cast. And at this point, pretty sure it's level 60 at this point, this is when you can proper start cleaving about 3 enemies at once pretty much constantly on every pull, because you've got your Chain Lightning and your Flame Nova and your Magma Totem. If anyone want to get Feral Spirit straight away, this is a great ability. When you pop Feral Spirit, the kind of underrated thing about Feral Spirit, because you don't really notice it that much unless you're leveling, is the fact that it does actually heal you an absolute truckload. So when you pop Feral Spirit, bear in mind it lasts 45 seconds, you nearly become immortal and you can start cleaving and chain pulling a lot of mobs when you pop it. It's very, very nice. Then from here we just want to max out Concussion, and then we definitely want Elemental Warding, and then 2 points into Elemental Devastation, and this is when we are level 70. Then we want Elemental Focus straight away while we're leveling in Northrend for the mana benefit that it gives you, and then we just max out Elemental Fury, and then you can kind of just put talents where you want. Probably want them in improved Fire Nova for the last few levels. Now when it comes to glyphs, in the pre-patch, you are limited to what glyphs you can get. You can only really get the ones that you can get from the trainer, rather than Northrend research. And the best ones in my opinion are Flame Nova and Lightning Shield, because these are going to benefit your cleave DPS the most. But if you're not able to clear that much, then you probably want Glyph of Storm Strike instead. And you definitely want Glyph of Renewed Life, so you don't need a resource, a reagent, for your reincarnation spell. Then I'd recommend the Water Walking Glyph and the Water Shield Glyph too. So when it comes to playstyle, it's obviously going to change depending on what level you are. So let's talk about the low level area, level 1 to 40. So until level 40 you are actually going to be using a two-handed weapon, and you're going to be using Flame Tongue on it until you can unlock Wind Fury. And a thing to note there, don't be afraid to use a staff, because sometimes the staffs actually give good DPS. And because they might give you intellect, they may, obviously because of our talent, give attack power because you have intellect on it. You also want to get into the habit of twisting your shield, so whenever you need mana, Water Shield time. Whenever you don't need mana and you can afford to do some extra DPS, it's Lightning Shield time. You also want to be pulling with Lightning Bolt and trying to squeeze in a couple of Lightning Bolts until you get into melee range, and be using your Earth Shock between auto attacks pretty much on cooldown. If you need to be more mana efficient though, you can use Flame Shock instead, and then stop using any mana consuming abilities when the mob is about 50% health. So you use the kind of the front loading playstyle, where you use all your mana in the opener, and then you trigger the 5-second regen timer a little bit earlier between the next mob, so you get a bit of better MP5 ticks between the next enemy. But honestly, my preferred playstyle is to just chain pull as frequently as I possibly can when I'm in the low levels, and I will from time to time actually take on 2 mobs at once. When you do unlock Storm Strike, your priority is roughly use Storm Strike, then Earth Shock, then Lava Lash as a filler. And obviously you can also use Magma Totem and Fire Nova when you are cleaving, and then it becomes Fire Nova as the higher priority, then Chain Lightning, and then your filler abilities like Storm Strike and Earth Shock and Lava Lash. If you're taking on 2 enemies at once at low level, you may also want to kind of multi-dot your Flame Shock, so you pull a mob with a couple of Lightning Bolts, put a Flame Shock on it, drop your totem, and then switch to a new mob, do some DPS on the new mob, and let the first mob slowly get DPS down, and then finish it off when you've killed the second mob. Now when you're higher level, you can start cleaving around about level 40, but it really becomes much better at level 60 when you unlock every single talent in the Maelstrom weapon talent. So first of all, I want to be using Wind Fury main hand and then Flame Tongue on the offhand. The priority, first of all, Magma Totem down and Stoneclaw Totem. Personally, I like to go Magma Totem and then Stoneclaw Totem. And then your priority there is use Chain Lightning with Maelstrom procs. Obviously when the combat opens, you are going to have to Storm Strike and Lava Lash to build up those Maelstrom procs. But then a priority after Chain Lightning is Fire Nova, then Storm Strike and Lava Lash. It's a very simple process. You're AoEing with Chain Lightning and Fire Nova when you can, and then using Storm Strike and Lava Lash to build up Maelstrom weapon procs. And then you will fill in with an Earth Shock from time to time. Remember, you can also use Healing Wave with your Maelstrom procs. I normally do this at the end of combat with. You're inevitably going to end combat with some Maelstrom weapon procs left. You can chain them into the next pull if you want, but if you need to top your health up, I'd recommend just using a Healing Wave, because obviously you're going to have reduced cast time. Remember to use Shamanistic Rage as well, best used when you are low mana, because obviously it does regenerate some of your mana. And remember to use Bloodlust and Wolves, basically whenever you can use them. Remember that Wolves heals you as well, and it's very good for when you want to do a big pull. And obviously you can use your other totems like Strength of the Earth and things like that. I normally only going to use it though when I know I'm going to be in the same spot for a while and I'm going to be pulling multiple enemies close to me, or I'm going to deal with some kind of an elite mob or anything like that. But my preferred playstyle is I like to save on mana, so I will use obviously the little ability that combines totems together to have Magma Totem and Stoneclaw Totem basically in the same one. I slightly misspoke before when I said I put Magma Totem down and then Stoneclaw Totem. You technically put them down at the same time, but just pulling Stoneclaw Totem and Magma Totem down at one of the Shaman Totem summons saves about 10% mana. That's with my current gear on the beta anyway, so that's 10% mana every time I want to put my totems down. Yes, it's slightly better to put down your Healing Spring Totem, your Mana Spring Totem and your Rapid Air Totem, but yeah, like I said, I only really put them down when I'm going to stay in the same place for a longer period of time. When it comes to weapon progression, guys, the legend himself, Nick, has made a really good weapon progression guide on a Google Drive document, all the way from level 1 all the way to level 40, you know, two-handers, and then it switches over to one-hander weapons when you unlock dual wield. So all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, go to my subscriber-only video, and it's in the description of that video. Now, let's talk about gearing and stat priority. So the rough kind of stat priority is agility, hit chance, then crit is kind of fairly equal to haste when leveling anyway, it's not at endgame. And then strength. So what we're trying to do as early as possible, we want 5% hit chance, because that's going to give us the hit cap on mobs about 2 levels higher than you. And then obviously it's going to be 4% for mobs 1 level higher than you. Do bear in mind though that it's 1% less for the Draenei, because they automatically get an extra 1% hit chance. When you're very low level, I definitely recommend focusing on agility pieces over strength pieces, but my advice is to always try and get male gear pieces over leather pieces, because if you're solo leveling, then with leather gear equipped you are going to be very squishy, and that can be very bad. Particularly if that gear doesn't have any stamina on it, because you can't be an efficient leveler if you're taking loads of damage and dying all the time. So your main priority should be to get male pieces with agility and stamina on it and then call it a day. But remember that gear pieces, although they are rare when you're leveling up, with secondary stats on them are very impactful low level, because when you're lower level, percentages are higher. So pieces with crit, hit and haste on them low level are very good, but they are rare. Now, spell power pieces aren't incredibly bad. The problem is that it's probably going to be cloth gear, so it's not that great, because they won't have a lot of armor obviously. But if it's a huge upgrade, like it has a lot of spell power on it and also has a lot of intellect and stamina on it, it might be better than your really bad piece of mail or leather agility or strength and stamina piece if it's only given like a few points of agility and strength, but you can upgrade it with a big intellect and a big stamina piece with some cheeky spell power on it. It's probably worth going for, to be fair. And same actually goes for weapons. If you find a weapon that's actually a spell power weapon, but it has great weapon DPS on it, it's probably going to be a bit of a decent upgrade, because again, your spell power is beneficial for a shaman, and pieces of intellect on them will actually give you a little bit of attack power too, and then attack power is also converted into spell power. So if you want, when you're leveling, you can have a mixture of intellect spell power pieces and agility attack power pieces, but I would only do it again if the spell power piece is a really big upgrade, Because obviously, first of all, the priority is to have a full set of mail gear, so you're not really squishy and you have a high armor stat. And obviously agility is a very good stat because it increases attack power and your crit. And obviously always remember to get agility pieces over strength pieces, or less the strength gear piece upgrade again is a huge chunky big upgrade. A Shaman really is a very resourceful class. They can gain a benefit basically from every single gear piece or type of gear piece in the game, apart from obviously plate gear that they can't equip. It's probably a huge mistake to say that, because now Shamans are going to be needing an all gear when it comes to leveling up private servers, but oh well. But anyway guys, my name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.